The kingdom of Asante once ruled supreme in West Africa.
Sankofa Asante.
Akwaba, Yaframi Akwasi Bonsu. Mawo Asante Amamre Ehiao. Sankofa Asante Amamre Badasi.
Slavery has existed for thousands of years, beginning as a system where captives of war, criminals, or debtors were forced into servitude. However, it expanded into a widespread trade with the rise of empires and the demand for labor. In Africa, internal slavery existed long before European involvement, often as a means of integrating more captives into societies. However, the transatlantic slave trade, starting in the 15th century, transformed slavery into a brutal, large-scale economic system. Millions of Africans were forcibly taken from their homes, separated from their families, and subjected to inhumane conditions. This devastated African societies, depopulating regions, disrupting economies, and weakening political structures, while also fueling wealth and development in Europe and the Americas at an immense human cost. The Asante people were initially subjects of the Denkira Kingdom, a powerful Akan state in present-day Ghana. Denkira imposed heavy tributes on the Asantes, treating them as vassals and forcing them into servitude. Tired of this oppression, the Asante, under the leadership of Asai Tutu and his advisor Okomfo Anoki, united various Akan clans and formed the Asante Confederacy in the late 17th century. In 1701, the Asante fought and decisively defeated the Denkira in the Battle of Fayas, securing their independence. Following this victory, they expanded their influence, conquering neighboring states and becoming the dominant power in West Africa by the 18th and 19th centuries. Their military strength, political organization, and control of trade made them one of the most powerful kingdoms in African history. Before we watch, Wode Maya accused the Asantes of being slave masters of the Northerners during the transatlantic slave trade, and a swift educative rebuttal from MDY, a proud son of Asante. Kindly subscribe to our channel and leave a comment. Thank you.
That were taken to the Caribbean were mostly Ashantis. No, it was actually the Ashantis that were capturing people. So they were capturing people from the north of Ghana. You know,
other places,
the Salaga market.
Yeah.
So they catch you from the Salaga side. They walk you down all the way to Cape Coast, where you take your last bath.
Wait, you walk all the way from the north.
I tell you,
are you kidding me?
So that is why
you are making it up. It's not true.
I'm not making it up. I'm not making it up. I'm not making it up.
Many
if you go to the north,
many of our African American brothers in the diaspora in the Caribbean, we shouldn't think they are from the coastal areas.
No.
Salaga, up north. If we do tourism right, you will just see how they trekked, kidnapped, captured people all the way from present-day northern Ghana, hundreds of kilometers.
Even not that I know. No.
Yes, they walk.
Some people did not even make it along the way from the north to the south, like central region, right? Then they took them. That's why you have to take your last bath. If you go to the, what's it called?
Asin River.
Yes. Yeah. So you take your last bath because you've walked long mile.
And all the dirt and
all
everything.
the dirt, they go and wash you. They wash you, then they take you to the dungeon. That's when they're like they start like checking which one is the strongest. You know, and they keep you there. You didn't know. So that is why, like,
can I say something?
Yeah.
Yeah. Even those of us who are on the coast, Western region, Central region, Volta region, there are states as captured enslaved people across the oceans to the Caribbean.
And
may God help us. And may we learn lessons.
Amazing.
May we learn lessons.
You see, this is why I'm telling Africans that it's about time for us to go back to our roots, learn our history. Because if we don't know our history, we might never know where we are heading to. It's very important, especially the youth. You might think that, oh, I don't care. If you don't care, we'll continue to be slaves in our own countries.
Amazing.
Hello Ghana, hello Africa, hello world. My name is MDY Monarch Dakwa Young. I'm a Ghanaian by right, but an Ashanti by grace. So I'm here to quickly react to a video made by Wode making claims that Ashantis were the slave masters in the pre-colonial days, even when we know it's a lie. I've already reacted to this video in my local dialect, Chi, but it's become very necessary for me to do it again in English because Wode made his claims in English, and as we all know, English is a global language, so it's become very necessary for us to situate the facts. Now, before I come back to the substantives, we more often than not hear people say silence is golden, and I've said this time with that number that when a lie is repeatedly told and truth remains silent, or truth decides to play diplomacy with the issues, people will definitely buy into the lie to be the truth. So we're here to straighten up all the crooked edges and to also situate the facts. So Wode says Ashantis were the slave masters in the pre-colonial days, a lie that is beautifully told or narrated, and haters of Ashanti conveniently hopping on it like a butterfly seeing the nectar of a flower. But that's not the purpose for this video. This video is to make it clear to all and sundry that Ashantis were never the slave masters of this country. Instead, Ashantis were traders in other jurisdictions doing other businesses. Now, these are the facts. And at this juncture moving forward, I would like to slow down because I need to explain things to the level where everybody would understand. So, the transatlantic slave trade started way back in the 1400s. And factually, around that time, there was nothing like the Ashanti Kingdom. Because the very first people that established the slave post were the Portuguese. They established the Castelo de São Jorge da Mina, present-day Elmina, around 1482. So from the period of 1482 coming, the Ashanti name was not seen, was not formed. Fact rather is, the Ashanti Kingdom was established around the 1600s, around 1670, 1680 to 1690, led by the then leader, Kofi Osei I, and his friend, Obrikonfo Komfanoche. So, it is the two that really established or forged the Ashanti Kingdom. Before this period, prior to the 1600s, the Ashantis were slaves to the Dentres. So, is Wode trying to tell us that the Ashantis, having been enslaved by the Dentres, were so capable and strong enough to have gone up north to battle it out with our giant northern brothers as slaves, and still drag another slave down south to sell them out? This doesn't make sense. Because if the first castle, the Elmina Castle, today present day Elmina Castle, formerly Castelo de São Jorge da Mina, was established around 1482 by the Portuguese as the first slave post around the West and the Central Africa sub-region, and by that time the name Ashanti had not been formed. How then do you tell me that the Ashantis were the people that were buying slaves or were enslaving people from Salaga Market? Because prior to these dates that I've established, there was nothing like Ashanti. In fact, before the formation of the Ashanti Kingdom, the 1600s, there had been slave trade going on for 198 years. Now, per the established facts, it is quite clear without any ambiguity that before the name Ashanti Kingdom was formed or forged, transatlantic slave trading had gone on for almost 2 centuries. I repeat, per the facts available now, per the submissions I've made so far, it is quite clear without any equivocation that before the name Ashanti Kingdom was established, the transatlantic slave trading had gone on for close to 2 centuries, and there's no iota of record on the shores of history that shows that Ashantis were part of the slave trading around that period. Now, to further add more flesh to the skeletal framework of my submissions, now, in one breath, people say Ashantis were midgets, were dwarfs. In fact, over the period, we've seen people mocking Ashantis, telling us that in those days, we used to beg the northern brothers to come and lay with our women so that we could have giants in our families. Fair enough. So, the multi-billion-dollar question is, how come midgets, dwarfs like us or we Ashantis, could march all the way down south to up north to defeat the well-built giants in the north and then enslave them down south and sell them to the whites? Does this make sense? Because in those days, if you want to broaden your territories, it was through war, and nobody can take you captive unless the person has defeated you through war. So is Wode trying to tell us that we the midgets, the Ashantis, the dwarfs, were able to march from down south to up north, defeat our giant brothers that we used to beg them to live with our women, and then march them, trek them down south, because historically Ashantis are not horse riders. We don't know how to ride horses. We didn't have chariots. So if today, for reasons best known to Wode Maya and his believers alone, they want to tell us that Ashantis, the dwarfs, were able to march up north and defeat the world-built giants in the north and trek them down south and sell them to the whites, then it's a mystery we probably need to unravel, because this to me doesn't make sense. Lastly, if Wode Maya is trying to tell the world that he's giving us a historical antecedent, then he should as well be able to give us names and figures. So around that time, which leader was leading the dwarfs, the Ashantis, up north to bring slaves down south? Which leader? Because around the 1600s, 1670, 1680, 1690, the name Ashanti was not established. In fact, the first leader, Kofi Osei Tutu the first, was not called the Asante, he was called the Kwamaine. The name Kwamai was our name. The Ashantis attained or gained their independence from the Denchers around 1701. Osei Tutu ruled from 1701 to 1717. So on record, the Ashantis defeated the Denchers in 1701, and it was at that point that the name Ashanti Kingdom was established, spearheaded by the then leader, Kofi Osei Tutu the first, with an able assistance from his friend, Obrikomfa Noche. These are the facts available, and this is the truth. It's quite easier for anybody, most especially those that hate on Ashantis, to sit in their corners and conjecture any history and come out and say, in any situation, there are only three truths: your truth, my truth, and the real truth. And the real truth is what I've presented to you. You can choose to believe what Wode Maya is saying or what I've just presented. The choice is yours, and we leave it to the court of public opinion to decide. But in drawing down the curtain of my submission, I'd like to share these few words: that moving forward as a country, as a people, conduct like what Wode Maya exhibited should not be tolerated or encouraged. You may see him as somebody telling a history, but to what extent is what he spewed out truthful to the facts available? And to what extent is what he spewed out going to inure to the benefit of the general masses of the people? To what extent? Ghana is one country with one common destiny. Ghana is one country with diverse people from diverse ethnic backgrounds and religious backgrounds. So things like this has the potency of creating or breeding tribal tension amongst people, and this should not be encouraged. I say this against the backdrop of the fact that on the African continent, we've seen traces of tribal and ethnic conflict that ended lives and destroyed properties. The Rwandan genocide saw 800,000 people being massacred within 48 hours, the Hutus and the Tutsis. Locally in Ghana, we've had our fair share as a country seeing conflict ensuing between two tribes. So if anybody wakes up anytime and decides to tell a history, and the history, whether or not it is truthful or not, people would want to jump on it because they are hateful towards one particular people, then it is up to us to decide whether we like to sit on a time bomb or we want to unite our front as a country, as a people. Ghana is intertwined with various tribal and religious groups. We've married ourselves across the tribal lines. We have friends cut across the tribal lines. We've coexisted peacefully from time immemorial. So we don't need a certain Wode Maya to come and tell us the history which is not and which was not. In any case, if we are to do a simple common sense analysis with the stories Wode Maya is telling us, supported by this man who is quite advanced in age, but is falling for this lie this boy is saying, and subjected to the credibility litmus test, you'd realize that what they both spewed out was total lie from the pit of hell. Because at least in recent past, we've seen our diasporan brothers from the Caribbean, from the Barbados, from Jamaica, from America, from Canada, coming down to Ghana, and after conducting their DNA tests, they traced their ancestry route to down south, most especially the Ashanti. And of course, we've witnessed others also tracing their ancestry route to the eastern region, the central region, the Greater Accra region, and some portions of the Brong Ahafo region. Hardly do we hear some of these diasporans tracing their ancestry route to the north. So if indeed it was the Ashantis that went up north and took slaves captives, brought them down and gave them to the whites as slaves, and they were taken to the Caribbean land, how come most of them traced their ancestry route to the Asante region. Recently, a Jamaican superstar came to Menchia and said he has traced his ancestry route and he believes he's an Asante. We've seen many of them. What even bewilders me most is the fact that Wode himself, telling this story, has been to Jamaica and has interviewed people that claim they trace their ancestry route to the Asante region. Even after hearing the people you interviewed calling local names like Yao, Kwame, Akwesi, you still think it was Northerners that were transported to that place? Have you seen a Northerner called Kwame in the north before? Or Kojo or Akwesi or Ama or Efia? These are some of the things you do that gets us persuaded in believing that it is a shared display of unbridled hatred towards the group called Ashantis. And you know what you did was wrong. If I were you, I would come back and say I got it all wrong. But very typical of a Ghanaian, living in his feelings, working with his baggy ego because he feels he's popular on the internet. He would never do that. But that's fine. Your historical twist wouldn't change our status as Ashantis. What you said or put out there wrongly wouldn't change anything. It just wouldn't change anything, Wode. At the end of the day, it's not that warped history you put out there that would make your tribe more known on the globe than the Ashanti tribe. No. At the end of the day, it's not that warped history you put out there that would elongate your height. And if by chance or by accident, whether or not you are intrinsically or extrinsically motivated by whoever that's behind you, we don't care. We are who we are. And that's the way it's going to be. Just as Bob Marley said. I'm MDY Monarch Dakwayong, a Ghanaian by right, and Asante by grace. Alhamdulillah. God bless you. I just came to give you a dollop of truth syrup.
Thanks for watching Sankofa Asante. Like, comment, and subscribe to our YouTube channel.